Indian English Literature, IL, is the body of work by writers in India who write in the English language and whose native or co-native language could be one of the numerous languages of India. Its early history began with the works of Michael Madhusudan Dutt, followed by R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand and Raja Rao, who contributed to Indian fiction in the 1930s. It is also associated with the works of members of the Indian diaspora who are of Indian descent. It is frequently referred to as Indo-Anglian literature. Indo-Anglian is a specific term in the sole context of writing that should not be confused with Anglo-Indian. As a category, this production comes in the broader realm of post-colonial literature, the production from previously colonized countries such as India. History of Indian English Literature. IL has a relatively recent history, being only 1.5 centuries old. The first book written by an Indian in English was Travels of Deen Muhammad, a travel narrative by Sheikh Deen Muhammad, published in England on 1793. In its early stages, IL was influenced by the Western novel. Early Indian writers used English unadulterated by Indian words to convey an experience which was essentially Indian. Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay (1838–1894) wrote Raj Mohan's Wife and published it in 1864. It is the first Indian novel written in English. Raja Rao (1908–2006), Indian philosopher and writer, authored Kantapura and The Serpent and the Rope, which are Indian in terms of their storytelling qualities. Kesari Mohan Ganguly translated the Mahabharata into English, the only time the epic has ever been translated in its entirety into a European language. Rabindranath Tagore, 1861–1941, wrote in Bengali and English and was responsible for the translations of his own work into English. Gopal Mukherjee, 1890–1936, was the first Indian author to win a literary award in the United States. Neeraj C. Chaudhary, 1897–1999, a writer of non-fiction, is best known for his The Autobiography of an Unknown Indian, 1951, in which he relates his life experiences and influences. P. Lal, 1929–2010, a poet, translator, publisher and essayist, founded a press in the 1950s for Indian English writing, Writers' Workshop. Ramnath Kak, 1917–1993, a Kashmiri veterinarian, wrote his autobiography Autumn Leaves, which is one of the most vivid portraits of life in 20th century Kashmir and has become a sort of a classic. R.K. Narayan, 1906–2001, contributed over many decades and continued to write till his death. He was discovered by Graham Greene in the sense that the latter helped him find a publisher in England. Greene and Narayan remained close friends till the end. Similar to the way Thomas Hardy used Wessex, Narayan created the fictitious town of Malgudi where he set his novels. Some criticize Narayan for the parochial, detached and closed world that he created in the face of the changing conditions in India at the times in which the stories are set. Others, such as Greene, however, feel that through Malgudi they could vividly understand the Indian experience. Narayan's evocation of small-town life and its experiences through the eyes of the endearing child protagonist Swaminathan in Swami and Friends is a good sample of his writing style. Simultaneous with Narayan's pastoral idylls, a very different writer, Mulk Raj Anand, 1905–2004, was similarly gaining recognition for his writing set in rural India, but his stories were harsher and engaged, sometimes brutally, with divisions of caste, class and religion. According to writer Lakshmi Holmstrom, the writers of the 1930s were fortunate because after many years of use, English had become an Indian language used widely and at different levels of society, and therefore they could experiment more boldly and from a more secure position. Kamala Markandeya is an early writer in IL who has often grouped with the trinity of R.K. Narayan, Mulk Raj Anand, and Raja Rao. The contributions of Manoj Das and Manohar Malgoankar to growth of IL largely remains unacknowledged. Later history of Indian English literature. Among the later writers, the most notable is Salman Rushdie, born in India and now living in the USA. Rushdie, with his famous work Midnight's Children, Booker Prize 1981, Booker of Bookers 1992, and Best of the Bookers 2008, ushered in a new trend of writing. He used a hybrid language, English generously peppered with Indian terms, to convey a theme that could be seen as representing the vast canvas of India. He is usually categorized under the magic realism mode of writing, most famously associated with Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Nayantara Sahgal was one of the first female Indian writers in English to receive wide recognition. Her fiction deals with India's elite responding to the crises engendered by political change. She was awarded the 1986 Sahitya Akademi Award for English for her novel, Rich Like Us, 1985, by the Sahitya Akademi, India's National Academy of Letters. Anita Desai, who was shortlisted for the Booker Prize 3 times, received a Sahitya Akademi Award in 1978 for her novel Fire on the Mountain and the British Guardian Prize for The Village by the Sea. Her daughter Kiran Desai won the 2006 Man Booker Prize for her second novel, The Inheritance of Loss. Ruskin Bond received Sahitya Akademi Award for his collection of short stories Our Trees Still Grow in the Hara in 1992. He is also the author of a historical novel A Flight of Pigeons, which is based on an episode during the Indian Rebellion of 1857. Vikram Seth, author of The Golden Gate, 1986, and A Suitable Boy, 1994, is a writer who uses a purer English and more realistic themes. Being a self-confessed fan of Jane Austen, his attention is on the story, its details and its twists and turns. Vikram Seth is notable both as an accomplished novelist and poet. Vikram Seth is also a prolific poet. Another writer who has contributed immensely to the Indian English literature is Amitabh Ghosh, who is the author of The Circle of Reason, his 1986 debut novel, The Shadow Lines, 1988, The Calcutta Chromosome, 1995, The Glass Palace, 2000, The Hungry Tide, 2004, and Sea of Poppies, 2008. The first volume of the Ibis trilogy, set in the 1830s, just before the Opium War, which encapsulates the colonial history of the East. Ghosh's latest work of fiction is River of Smoke, 2011, the second volume of the Ibis trilogy. Rohinton Mistry is an India-born Canadian author who is a Neustadt's International Prize for Literature laureate, 2012. His first book, Tales from Firozabad, 1987, published by Penguin Books Canada, is a collection of 11 short stories. His novels Such a Long Journey, 1991, and A Fine Balance, 1995, earned him great acclaim. Shashi Tharoor, in his The Great Indian Novel, 1989, follows a storytelling, though in a satirical, mode as in the Mahabharata, drawing his ideas by going back and forth in time. His work as UN official living outside India has given him a vantage point that helps construct an objective Indianness. Vikram Chandra is another author who shuffles between India and the United States and has received critical acclaim for his first novel Red Earth and Pouring Rain, 1995, and collection of short stories Love and Longing in Bombay, 1997. His namesake Vikram A. Chandra is a renowned journalist and the author of The Srinagar Conspiracy, 2000. Suketa Mehta is another writer currently based in the United States who authored Maximum City, 2004, an autobiographical account of his experiences in the city of Mumbai. In 2008, Aravind Adiga received the Man Booker Prize for his debut novel The White Tiger. Recent writers in India such as Arundhati Roy and David Davidower show a direction towards contextuality and rootedness in their works. Arundhati Roy, a trained architect and the 1997 Booker Prize winner for her The God of Small Things, calls herself a homegrown writer. Her award-winning book is set in the immensely physical landscape of Kerala. Davidower sets his The House of Blue Mangoes in southern Tamil Nadu. In both the books, geography and politics are integral to the narrative. In his novel Lament of Mohini, 2000, Sri Kumar Verma touches upon the unique matriarchal system and the Sambandham system of marriage as he writes about the Namboodiris and the aristocrats of Kerala. Similarly, Arnab Jandik A.A., a trained engineer and jurist, writes about both physical and ethereal existentialism on the banks of the mighty river Brahmaputra. His co-authored book of poetry with British poet-novelist Tess Joyce, appropriately titled A Stanza of Sunlight on the Banks of Brahmaputra, 1983, published from both India and Britain, 2009, evokes the spirit of flowing nature of life. His most recent book Brahmaputra and Beyond, Linking Assam to the World 2015 made a conscious effort to connect to a world divided by racial, geographic, linguistic, cultural and political prejudices. His highly acclaimed short story collection The Mexican Sweetheart and Other Stories 2002 was another landmark book of this genre. Janvi Barua, a Bangalore-based author from Assam, has set her critically acclaimed collection of short stories Next Door on the social scenario in Assam with insurgency as the background. The stories and novels of Ratan Lal Basu reflect the conditions of tribal people and hill people of West Bengal and the adjacent states of Sikkim, Bhutan, and Nepal. Many of his short stories reflect the political turmoil of West Bengal since the Naxalite movement of the 1970s. Many of his stories like Blue Are the Far-Off Mountains, The First Train and The Magic Marble glorify purity of love. His novel Ravan the Divine Tree is the story of a tribal and his love for an age-old tree. In Hemingway-style language, the author takes the reader into the dreamland of nature and people who are inexorably associated with nature. Poetry of Indian English literature. An overlooked category of Indian writing in English is poetry. Rabindranath Tagore wrote in Bengali and English and was responsible for the translations of his own work into English. Other early notable poets in English include De Rosio, Michael Madhusudan Dutt, Toru Dutt, Ramesh Chandra Dutt, Shri Arvind, Sarojini Naidu, and her brother Harendranath Chattopadhyay. Notable 20th century authors of English poetry in India include Dilip Chitre, Kamala Das, Eunice D'Souza, Naseem Ezekiel, Kurzi Katrak, Shukhi Kumar, Arun Kolatkar, P. Lal, Jayanta Mahapatra, Dom Morash, Geev Patel, A. K. Ramanujan, and Madan Gopal Gandhi among several others. The younger generation of poets writing in English include Abhay, Arundhati Swaramaniam, Anjum Akhija, Arnab Jandik A.A., Bibhu Peri, Ranjit Hoskote, Sudeep Sen, Smita Agrawal, Makarand Paranjape, Jeet Thail, Jaideep Sarangai, Mani Rao, Jerry Pinto, K. V. Dominic Fore, Meena Kandasamy, Nalini Priyadashani, Gopi Kottur, Tapan Kumar Pradhan, Rukmini Bhinaya, Robin Gangom, Vihang Naik and K. Srilata. Modern expatriate Indian poets writing in English include Agha Shahid Ali, Sujata Bhatt, Richard Crosta, Yadsu Sharma, Tabish Khair, and Vikram Seth. Thank you.